Welcome back everyone, this is Mindy, and in today's video I'm going to be creating a card using the new products from the August 2019 release from Neenah Tangled. First I'm going to take a look at the new products that are being released. This is the first one. This is a 4x6 clear stamp set called Grateful Heart. You can see here it has this beautiful large cluster of flowers, a smaller single one, and then a bud and also 2 leaves. There's a coordinating die set as well that you can purchase separately. And there were 2 sentiments that were included on that stamp set. Next we have a 6x6 red rubber stamp background, and this is called Delicate Dots. And this coordinates beautifully with that Grateful Heart stamp set. Then also being released this month are some enamel dots, and this is something new to Neenah Tangled. These are great for accenting your cards. There are 2 colors that are on this sheet. You can see you have a variety of sizes. I've already tapped into them. So there are as self-adhesive, so there's adhesive already on the back. There are some gold glitter ones, which are just stunning, and then some nice, shiny, solid black ones. So the first thing I'm going to do to start my card is I'm going to stamp out my images from the Grateful Heart stamp set. I am using all of the images that are on here, so I'm just going to lay them out in my MISTI stamping tool. I will be stamping these onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock, and that is 80 pound. I'm using this new ink from Gina Designs. This is black amalgam ink in Obsidian. That is the name of the color. So this is super, super black. It is great for Copic coloring, watercoloring, pencils, anything you can think of. It is perfect for. Now the only reason I had to stamp it twice was because I did not push down hard enough on the stamp set. Otherwise, in most cases, I have not had to stamp images twice. It is that great of a black ink, you don't need to stamp it twice, but that was just operator error. So here are the Copic colors that I'll be using. I have RV69, RV66, and RV63. And I do walk you through a little bit of the coloring, and then the rest is sped up because I color them all the same way. So I start out with my darkest color, which is the RV69. I'm laying down just a slight shadow area when there is a flower that's overlapping another petal. That is where I add a shadow. Then I blend out with the RV66. And then finish it off with the RV63. Now I try not to use a lot of the 63. That is my highlight color. So the main color when I'm Copic coloring is going to be that mid-tone. So I try to make most of my flower that RV66. The rest is just to create contrast and some depth. Now once in a while I do go back over the image to blend those out a little bit better. I only go back over it with the RV66 and RV63. I don't go back in with that darkest color just because I don't want it to get too much ink in there. I don't want too much saturation. Otherwise, it will start bleeding out just because I've put too much ink down on my paper. So I'll continue going around the entire flower doing that same process, adding in that darkest area, then the mid-tone, which is the RV66, and a little bit of the RV63 for that highlight color. And I thought these were just some really great colors to use. I don't use these very often. So this was a new color combination for me. And I will also have the supplies listed on my blog as well as these color combinations if you wanted to save that for a future project. This release is released today. So if you're watching this video, on the day that I released it, these are available for purchase, so you can head over to the Neenah Tangled store and pick those up. It is a smaller release, but we have jam-packed inspiration for you for the rest of the week, and that will be listed on my blog as well. So I'll have more projects to share, lots of great techniques and things that you can do for this. Copic coloring is just definitely one of my go-to things to do. Is the first thing I think of when I see floral images, but I will have other mediums that I'll be using, so be sure to check that out. I'm just going to finish coloring up this large floral image here. I'm just doing the one The rest I'll do later on, kind of sped up, but I do it all the same like I had said. And then I will also go over and color in one of the small rosebuds, or the bud. Not sure if they're roses or exactly what flower it is, but it's beautiful. And with the smaller one, it is a smaller area, so I try not to use too much ink on those just because, like I said, I didn't want it to bleed out. I wanted to make sure I had those 3 colors and had that contrast between all of them. And then once I finish that, I do color in the leaves. Those are a little tricky because they're very small, so I don't do a lot of shading on them, just as long as I have a darker and a lighter color, just to show that there is some contrast in the leaves. As far as exactly where the shadows go, I don't care. As long as I have dimension on them, I am perfectly fine. So for the leaves, I'm using YG17, YG23, and YG21. And I'll color those in. And then I will go ahead, and I left the footage in here to color in the rest of the images if you're interested in seeing that. I'm going to play some music while I do that, so you're welcome to follow along. If you want to skip the rest of the coloring, you are certainly welcome to, and you can head over to 7:54 in the video, and then I'll work on finishing up the rest of the card. Now all of my images are colored in, so I'm going to use the coordinating die, line those up, and I'm going to hold them down. I'm actually going to be using some washi tape because I ran out of my favorite purple tape. So I'm just using some washi tape to hold those coordinating dies down. And then I'll go ahead and run those through my die cutting machine, and I'll set them off on the side so that I can work on my background. Now I apologize, you see a real big bright light there on my MISTI door. I just recently rearranged my filming station, so my lights unfortunately will be there, but hopefully that doesn't distract you from the rest of the video. Now for the background, I'm just taking a white piece of cardstock. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm inking up that background stamp with the black obsidian ink, and I did have to remove my foam pad from my MISTI tool because this is a red rubber stamp. It already has the cushion to it, so you don't need the one that comes in the MISTI. Once that is stamped, I'm going to work on a sentiment, so you'll need to put your foam back into your MISTI. I'm using some black cardstock from Hero Arts. I'm going to prep that with an anti-static powder tool, ink that up with some clear embossing ink. Now what I like to do is close the door of the MISTI, lightly tap on it, and then stamp it again. I just seem to get better results this way. And then I can use some white embossing powder, just sprinkle that on, tap it off, and then heat it up with my heat tool so that it is nice and melted. And then I'll go ahead off camera and trim that down into a thin strip. Now to finish the assembly of the card, I'm taking my die cut flowers and I'm just starting to arrange them where I want everything to go. Once I'm happy with the placement of everything, I can start gluing those down. So I'm giving myself just kind of a guide exactly where I want it. what pieces I want in the background. And then I'm going to take some liquid glue. You can use whatever tape runner or liquid glue that you happen to have on hand. I'm going to be using Lawn Fawn liquid glue and just adding that to the pieces that are going to be in the background of the card. Now I did want to add a little bit of dimension to this. So the biggest floral arrangement, I'm going to add some Gina K Designs white foam squares behind it. I'm going to cover most of the area just because I don't want any saggy areas. When I do mail this, I want to make sure that it is going to hold up in the mail. So then just covering that with the foam squares. I love Gina's foam squares because you can see I'm just popping those out. It's like a runner, so you just pull that little strip and the foam squares just pop right out of the box. And there are a ton of foam squares in there. So once I have that covered in foam squares, I'll line that up on my card base and just push that down really well. And I'm also going to add a few of these to my sentiment strip, and they fit in there just perfectly. They were perfect size, and it's not too bulky. So then I'm just removing the backing of that adhesive, lining up exactly where I want that sentiment to go. And then once I'm happy, I can just push that down and that'll secure that in place. Now you can leave it just as this. I'm deciding to add some of the enamel dots. Now the first card that you're seeing, or the card that you saw in the beginning of the video, doesn't have these enamel dots. This is kind of an afterthought when I remade the card, because this is a remake of my original. So they were a great accent piece to add to this card. And that will finish up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed it and the new products from Neat and Tangled. I will have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and on my blog as well. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.